He was Britain's most wanted drug boss, 3 years on the run, 4 arrests. And still, he believed no one would ever catch him until everything came crashing down. His face was plastered across wanted posters all over England, and his name circulated through multiple encrypted chat groups. Today, we're telling the story of Alex Mail, 32 years old, covered in tattoos, built like a fighter. Nearly every major police unit in the UK was searching for him. He wasn't some small-time dealer or a middleman. He was supplying directly to the heavy hitters. By the summer of 2020, his network had already pushed more than 130 kilos of illegal drugs across the south of England. Cities like Weston-super-Mare, Bristol, Trowbridge, Portsmouth, and even parts of the Midlands were under his influence. When police finally caught up with him in 2020, it seemed like the game was over. But after his arrest and release on bail, Alex vanished completely. For 4 years, he managed to stay ahead of the law, using fake identities, traveling through different countries, and openly taunting the people hunting him. He posted holiday photos from sunny beaches, partied in Marbella, and sped around in a Porsche. He even left mocking messages on his own wanted poster, "You'll never find me." But he was wrong. While he enjoyed luxury and freedom, the police were quietly working behind the scenes to bring him down. And those supposedly secure, encrypted chats, they turned out to be anything but safe. Old partners were arrested one by one, and slowly the net began to tighten around Alex Mail. What followed became one of the most relentless manhunts in recent British crime history. A chase that stretched across half a continent, led to multiple arrests, and ended in a filthy prison cell thousands of miles from home. This is the story of how Britain's most wanted drug boss managed to stay on the run for years, and how his empire finally collapsed. Before he rose to the top of the most wanted list, Alex Mail lived out in the open. His base of operations? Weston-super-Mare, a quiet seaside town better known for beach huts and arcade machines than for drug networks. Yet from that unassuming place, he quietly built one of the most powerful supply lines in southwest England. At first glance, Alex didn't seem like anyone special, but behind the scenes, he was moving massive amounts of drugs. More than 130 kilos of high-grade cocaine and tens of thousands of pounds worth of ketamine. He wasn't selling on the streets, he was supplying the dealers themselves. From Dorset to Wiltshire, from Bristol to Bridgewater, his operation fueled entire criminal networks. And unlike the guys on the corner who risked their freedom every day, Alex kept his own hands clean. He operated through encrypted phones, layered communication systems, and stayed far away from the drugs themselves. But keeping your distance doesn't make you invisible. Alex Mail's name first surfaced during Operation Venetic, the UK's massive response to the takedown of the encrypted communication system EncroChat. That network was believed to be unbreakable. Alex operated on it under 2 aliases, Original Dagger and Ragnar.com. In the criminal underworld, they knew him as the Viking, the man at the top of the pyramid. His clients didn't talk in grams, they ordered in kilos. His profits ran into the hundreds of thousands, sometimes in a single day. For Alex, everything revolved around control, efficiency, and power. But like many who climbed too fast and too high, Alex began to believe he was untouchable. And that very sense of invincibility led him to make one crucial mistake. For years, criminals put their absolute trust in their expensive encrypted phones. EncroChat was seen as the gold standard. For thousands of pounds a year, it promised total security. No traceable numbers, no recoverable messages. For dealers like Alex Mail, it was the backbone of their entire operation. Until very quietly, everything collapsed. Without the users knowing, European authorities, led by France and the Netherlands, had hacked the entire network. And they didn't just shut it down. They duplicated it. For weeks, investigators were able to watch everything in real time. Orders, deliveries, prices, payment details, nothing stayed hidden. When the UK's Southwest Regional Organised Crime Unit gained access to that flood of messages, they didn't just find a few scattered conversations. They uncovered the full structure, scale, and organization behind the operation. And right at the center of it all, behind the usernames Original Dagger and Ragnar.com, was none other than Alex Mail. He shared photos of cocaine blocks with handwritten price tags. In reality, Alex was running two operations, one that distributed cocaine and ketamine through a trusted network of dealers, and another that quietly laundered the profits. In June 2020, the police moved in. Alex was arrested as he walked out of a gym in Weston-super-Mare. Everyone thought, this is the end. But what happened next surprised even the investigators. He should have ended up behind bars, but long court delays and a slow-moving investigation changed everything. At the end of 2020, he was released on bail. No monitoring, no ankle tag, no curfew, no restrictions at all. And then he was gone. At first, it barely raised alarms, a few missed appointments, a phone that stopped answering. But by the time officers tried to tighten control, Alex had already vanished. He was smuggled across the channel by boat and resurfaced in the Netherlands. From Eindhoven, he traveled on to Marbella, blending in effortlessly among other fugitives. Out in the open, he flaunted a life of luxury, photos from sunny destinations, surrounded by wealth. Behind the scenes, he hid behind fake documents and a network of criminals who kept him one step ahead of the law. In Spain, he was even stopped for speeding in a Porsche Panamera. A fake driver's license and passport were enough to get him bail, and once again, he disappeared before anyone could react. After that, he headed to Portugal. In the resort town of Vilamoura, he shared an apartment with another wanted British criminal. When that man was arrested, Alex vanished yet again, this time resurfacing in Turkey. But at Istanbul airport, fate finally caught up with him. A biometric check revealed that his passport was fake. Mail was detained and immediately put on a flight back to Lisbon. For British investigators, this looked like the moment of truth. But Alex Mail still had one last card to play. Cunning and calculated, he agreed to extradition, fully aware that Portuguese law worked in his favor. Under their rules, a suspect could only be held for a maximum of 150 days while awaiting deportation. As the clock ticked, his lawyer, Ricardo Alvarez Aorio, known in Spain as the Lawyer of the Devil, filed appeal after appeal. On the very last day, the British authorities begged to at least prosecute him for passport fraud. But Portugal's Supreme Court refused. Judge Enrique Luis de Brito de Araujo ruled that Mail had to be released, with only one condition. He had to check in at a local police station from time to time. Alex walked out of the courtroom with a grin. Outside, he posed for a photo, as if it were a new trophy. Then he celebrated his release with a luxury lunch at one of Lisbon's finest restaurants. And within a week, he had disappeared once again. This time, he went farther than ever before. With help from Russian criminals, he was smuggled across the Strait of Gibraltar into Morocco. By early 2023, Alex Mail was no longer just another fugitive. His name had crossed borders, and everyone knew who he was. He began appearing on most wanted lists across Europe. After slipping out of Portugal, he resurfaced again, this time in Marrakesh. There, he lived in a quiet residential neighborhood, far removed from the luxury he once flaunted. Still, he didn't let go of comfort entirely. He kept a fake passport within reach and took in 3 stray cats. For a brief moment, it looked like he had finally found a place to disappear. But that calm was an illusion. What he didn't know was that Moroccan authorities had already locked onto him. For 2 weeks, intelligence services monitored Alex Mail closely. They tracked his movements, studied his daily routines, and collected evidence, all in complete silence. The operation was coordinated with the UK's National Crime Agency, which fed information to Morocco behind the scenes. On January 21, 2023, the net closed for good. The police moved in with precision. No chase, no violence, just a clean, coordinated arrest. Alex was taken into custody and transferred to Tiflis prison, one of the most heavily guarded facilities in Morocco. There, he was held under strict conditions while Britain launched the formal extradition process. The contrast with his former life of luxury couldn't have been more extreme. Alex later described the prison as hopeless. Infestations, barely any hot water, and cold concrete floors instead of comfort. But this time, there was no escape. No fake identities, no legal loopholes. The process dragged on for months, but eventually every document was signed. In August 2023, Alex Mail, handcuffed and escorted by British officers, was flown back to the United Kingdom and immediately taken to HMP Exeter. After more than 3 years on the run and 4 international arrests, Britain's most elusive fugitive was finally behind bars. And this time, there was no way out. Back on UK soil, the moment of reckoning had arrived. His trial took place at Exeter Crown Court, in the very same city where his network had earned millions just a few years earlier through cocaine and ketamine trafficking. In the dock stood the man who had once controlled the logistics for a huge portion of England's drug supply. Prosecutors laid out the full scale of his operation in painstaking detail. Between March and June 2020 alone, Alex had overseen the movement of at least 130 kilos of high-purity cocaine, with a street value of more than £4 million. On top of that, he purchased ketamine in bulk, including a confirmed deal worth £26,600. At the same time, he coordinated the laundering of vast amounts of criminal cash, with daily peaks of up to £600,000 in a single day. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Not just digital logs, but witness statements, seized phones, money trails, and intercepted messages. In one chat, Alex casually negotiated a £37,500 deal for a kilo of cocaine. He even sent a photo of the block receiving the reply. Looks perfect. It wasn't just business. It was pure arrogance. His escape trail also came under scrutiny. The string of fake identities and forged passports that had allowed him to vanish time and time again. The defense didn't contest the charges. Alex pleaded guilty to conspiracy to supply cocaine and ketamine, as well as laundering criminal money. Weapons-related charges remained on file. The judge described him as the supplier to the suppliers, not just another link in the chain, but the man pulling the strings. His co-defendants had already been sentenced to a combined total of more than 56 years in prison. And on December 2, 2023, Alex Mail received his own sentence, 18 years behind bars. What do you think? Is 18 years enough for someone who made millions from drugs and managed to evade the police for years? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.